You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, shed raids don't get much bigger than this one. The incredible collection of Cambridge's Ross family and the Hawaii connection, Dan's barn find by design Universal Roadster. But it's the crew from Maguire's kicking things off. This week, they decided we needed a bit more Chevy in our life. Chevrolet's Chevelle and El Camino. If you've been watching the show over the past few years, you'll know we've got a bit of a soft spot for the big GM coupes and pickups. But you might be wondering why you don't see more of them. The Chevelle, for example. It ticks all the right muscle car boxes, and while they've long been a popular platform for our US friends, we Kiwis have been a bit slower on the uptake. That's starting to change. And here's your proof. The Chevelle and El Camino owners of New Zealand, a Facebook group created by Paul and Ali Ross to unite this growing band of local owners.
You know, I was seeing 2 or 3 Chevelles around the country and trying to get people together, but it's really hard when everyone's spread from one end of the country to the other. Most people belong to a muscle car club now, their own club, their local club or whatever, so it was a little bit difficult. So my daughter suggested that we set up a Facebook closed group, members group, and so that's what we did. It started off very, very slow at Beach Hop last year, that's 2018. We had a total of 8 cars at the photo shoot. This year we had 21 cars, and I think today we've got more than that. Great community, people can buy and sell on there, ask each other questions, generally just bounce off each other and show everyone each other's cars and what they've done to them, so yeah.
The best thing about it is, since we've got it, just the people you meet along the way, El Caminos, Chevelles, it just blew up, it just grew, and everybody was coming out of hiding and saying they were building them and getting parts from overseas and waiting to sort of get to the car shows and show them off. So it's taking off.
Why wait for a car show? On a sunny winter's day on Auckland's eastern shore, the local-ish contingent of the nationwide owners group treated us to this impressive lineup. And it would seem their choice of transport wasn't the only thing in common. When the hunt started, truth is, many of these now proud Chevy owners weren't actually looking for a Chevelle or Elkie.
I always wanted a Camaro.
Originally I was looking for a 59 Impala.
My dream car before we got this was a 57 mainline.
There's Impalas out there's Camaros out there. The Chevelle were just that little bit different, and that's really what I was looking for.
I had seen them, but no, not so much on my radar. It was definitely, I like the 67, 68, 69 Camaro. I found that there seems to be quite a few of them in New Zealand, a lot more than what I realised once I started looking, and then I thought, hang on, I want something a little bit different, a little bit more unique.
It was the muscle car in USA, but in New Zealand, people just knew basically two genres of cars. One was a Camaro and one was a Mustang. And people are starting to pick up on that, and that's why the Chevelle community in New Zealand is growing quite quickly, and there's some pretty big engines going into some of them.
And you'd think with a gathering of one mark spanning a relatively short production timeline, it would all get a bit samey. Not so.
If you're looking for, the long, slim, wide type product, your 66, 67s are, mean as. But if you're looking for a real nice coupe that's a little bit shorter, a little bit stockier than your later models. And then when you got all your El Caminos, which are all sort of around a similar sort of era, there's a big fancy ute with a big block engine in them.
I've always loved the utes, but I've turned more or less to loving El Caminos even more now. El Caminos and Chevelle, yeah, they're very similar in shape. Yeah, they're awesome. With the 69, it's sort of got its own unique shape. The 68s are very similar. It's just a bit of a flatter front end on it. Everywhere we go, we're always getting looks. She stands out. I bought that as a birthday present for my wife, so it's hers. I do all the maintenance on it, the cleaning, and obviously the driving. So she's the passenger.
While the El Camino clearly makes a work-ready spin on the muscle car, apparently the Chevelle can also be a practical choice.
Funny story, actually. Found a 59 Impala sedan, just about to jump in the car, go and have a look at it, and then my wife said, what about this one? And I said, but it's two-door. And we actually measured the Impala and we're short by about 2 feet in the garage.
You know, it came down to size, and I just couldn't fit into a Camaro. You know, I looked around at a number of shows, and eventually spotted a Chevelle. Didn't even know what a Chevelle was. I bought it in the country as a pretty ugly looking white thing with green stripes. It was actually a Malibu, which is Chevelle Malibu. And then I had it completely framed off with restoration and literally made into an SS Chevelle. Because the 70 Chevelle came with, the SS Chevelle came with a big block. I took the 350 out of it, which it came with, sold that, and actually imported a factory 402 big block. Had that completely rebuilt with modern running gear and installed in the car.
While it's fair to say all involved were pretty stoked on Maraitai's stellar weather, Richie was probably just a little bit more.
Originally, I was a little bit coy about going to the convertible. You know, I just thought, oh, something else to go wrong. We did have a convertible previously, and you know, it was really, really weather dependent. But the fact that you know you can fold it up, fold it down, you know, whatever the conditions. But you know, as we've had the car now, we've really grown to love it. It's been quite cool, and just having that point of difference is yeah, good fun.
It actually started with a TV program called This Is Us, and I thought, that's a cool car. And then I started looking in New Zealand, and there didn't seem to be that many of them around. They seem to be growing, there seem to be more of them, but definitely wasn't on my radar initially. It was, as I say, my first choice was a Dodge Charger, but yeah, and it turns out we got the Chevelle and we're wrapped with it. We're getting pretty close. We're sort of just on that last little stretch of doing a few little minor things now, and we should be able to get it back for a 3-check, and we'll be driving it, and we'll definitely be at the beach hop next year.
Where it's a safe bet that the Chevelle and El Camino owner group's now traditional annual photo will attract an even bigger turnout once again. As an increasing number of Kiwis cotton on to GM's muscular coupes, utes, drop tops, even wagons, plenty more will make their way to New Zealand soil. And sure, this now slightly exclusive group might get a little less so, but those future Chevelle and El Camino owners will be happy to find they're in great company.
We've all at least got one thing in common, and yeah, long may it last.
It doesn't matter whether she's like, you know, an everyday runner or she's a show car. We as a whole, our whole group would appreciate any car in the state that it's in, you know, whether it be a project or finished.
Everyone's all keen. It doesn't matter what shape it is or year. It's if you've got a Chevelle or a El Camino, everyone just wants to help everyone else out.
I'm definitely all for people getting more Chevelles and El Caminos and just driving the wheels off them.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Need a Car. Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, it's shed raiding time. But calling this one a shed might be a bit of a stretch. The incredible car and earth-moving collection of the Ross family.
We just love cars. We love the smell of petrol, mate, and the diesel, obviously, with the earth-moving side of it too. So, yeah, it doesn't take much egging on if we want to grab something. Yeah, get together and say, yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
And the four Ross brothers, Mike, Tony, Tim and Simon, clearly haven't been short of those good ideas. While the collection has been growing for 30 years, getting them together under one roof has been a more recent development.
Yeah, we've got the bug bad, yeah. Well, when we finally kick the bucket, whoever's got to take over has got a bit of an issue, but no, we're enjoying it at the moment, that's for sure.
However, it would seem the next generation of the Ross family isn't too fazed by the prospect.
Yeah, I think when you're a Ross, it's handed to you at birth being a petrol head and somebody who likes to play with mud. So, hey, there's a bit of everything. There's something to keep everybody happy. Mustangs, Camaros, Timmy's GTR, lots of other bits and pieces, AC Cobras, right down to Minis. The collection is just sort of growing and growing over the years. A lot of people loan us their cars to bring in here, so it's forever changing, which is great. And if you had enough of this side, you go to the other side and have a look at the big toys. So, well worth having a look at.
The big toys reflect the Ross family's other passion, their C&R Development's earth-moving business. Big, not a term thrown around lightly on this side of the building. The decommissioned Komatsu Super Dozer, more or less the biggest dozer money can buy. But back on the car side, the scale is in the numbers. Detroit's finest are all represented, Australia's too, some very desirable models in the ranks. But unsurprisingly perhaps, in the family collection, the cars with a family connection hold a special value.
Yeah, there's Grandad's old Aston Martin over there. The boys managed to hold on to that, and they've rebuilt the car completely since, so that's got a bit of family history. There's the old Valiant down the back that Grandad had. Well, not exactly that one, but one that looks the same that he used to use as runabout, so had to find one of those and bring it in too. So yeah, there is things in here that are close to the family. Uncle Tony's Mark IV down the back with a big block in it that he used to drag race, which back in noisier times used to come out once a year for burnouts, which is quite impressive to watch.
While yes, parking space is rapidly becoming an issue, there is a gap saved for one more. And it's one we checked out just a couple of weeks back at Waikato's Mitchell Race Extreme. This Vanishing Point-inspired Challenger, built to run in central muscle cars.
Yeah, we've had Kowalski in here for a little while. We had it sitting here over the Christmas period, and it's just gone back to MRX just to finish it off so we can get it on the track and go and have a bit of a play. But when it is in here, it's always a bit of a showpiece. People love to have a look at it. It's not just a race car, they've actually made it into a bit of a show car with the handiwork that they've done on it. So almost going to be a shame to put it on the racetrack, but still want to go out and give it a go and see how it goes.
But perhaps the best part of this Cambridge collection, it is a private one, but one its owners get a lot of joy from sharing.
Not just the car side of it, but the earth-moving side. Kids don't get the chance to look at these sort of things these days with their health and safety, so kids come in and they can have a look around and climb over the machines, so no, it's good. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was probably the worst kept secret, I suppose. The boys want to share it with other people, but just didn't want everybody to come in at the same time. But it's, hey, we get groups through every weekend. It's always busy. Occasionally people come in and ask for a coffee, see if the diner's open. We haven't got to that point yet, but hey, it's great to be able to share it with people, get in touch with us and say, hey, can we bring a group through? Yeah, no worries. It's we've always got somebody here to show them through, and the guys have got some pretty good stories too, so they can tell a bit of history about whether it's a car on this side or a piece of earth-moving equipment on the other side.
And with more and more younger members of the Ross family now joining in on the Act 2, This collection looks in good hands for generations to come, in this purpose-built shed come museum, and out on the blacktop.
Oh, I don't think it does end. I can't see too many electric cars being joining the family before too long. Yeah, well, while there's still fuel to burn, I think we'll be burning it. And the biggest thing for us is these cars, while they're show cars, is they've still got to be driven. Everybody wants to see these sorts of cars out and about. It'd be a shame just to keep them in here. Nice to put them out on the road and go and burn some fuel.
Right, thanks to Need a Car, this week we catch up with Dan Tyler and his Universal Roadster. 'Cause the best hot rods need a good backstory.
A car is, well, it was part of your family. You know, it wasn't just something that you hopped in like a mode to get to A to B. This car here, you know, it's got the scars, the paint's worn, you know, the upholstery's a bit ripped or whatever. It's telling you a story and you're adding more to it. And I think that cars that are locked up and while it's good to see those cars deserve to be driving around and being used. Yeah, okay, it adds a bit more wear and tear to the vehicle and a few more looks and stuff, but that's just part of it, you know. I think the car has a soul and it's a happy car, you know. You hop in it and it's just cruise along, everything's humming, it's loving life. And I mean, it's sat in a shed for 30, 40 odd years. I think the last place it wants to be is sitting in another shed for another 30 or 40 years, you know. Cars, man, cars. When I was, 4 or 5 years old, my dad had a 38 Deluxe coupe. I always remember that car at the end of the driveway, and I'd run down the driveway and we'd jump in that car and he'd take me to wherever we were going. That just slowly progressed. You know, we were kids, you played with cars, you mucked around with cars, you'd go to the beach in your car, took your girlfriend out on a date in the car, you know what I mean? Like, it was all around cars and it's just never really stopped, you know? 1930 Ford Model A. It was for sale in Maryland in the States. It was pretty cheap and had a bit of a picture there that was a little bit hard to make out and stuff, but I decided to sort of pursue it. The car turned up in New Zealand. It had Hawaiian plates, which was a little bit strange, but didn't take too much notice. It turned out that the car was sold brand new from the Universal Motor Company in Honolulu, which was the Ford dealership of the time. Under the seat, cleaning it, there was a few little receipts from parts and stuff, and that's how I sort of decided to call it the Universal Roadster, you know, and yeah, we just went from there.
But that wouldn't be the last of this near 90-year-old car's connection to Hawaii's Universal Motors. You see, Dan was enlisted for a whirlwind 24-hour Hawaii mission to inspect another hot rod for a mate. Turns out the hot rod wouldn't be the only purchase that day.
He went on to tell me that he had a Scott Blower that was sold brand new from the Universal Motor Company as well, and he had it in the crate sitting in his office, which we sort of thought that was a bit hard case and that, but anyways, a few beers later we went and had a look, and sure enough, here was this Scott Blower sitting in the crate with the Universal tags and all the paperwork with it. You had to have it. It was meant to be. You believe in fate, that's it, right there.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This Model A is a bit weathered, perhaps missing the mega-dollar finish you might typically find on this TV show. That's not because Dan hasn't got around to it. Nope. As the owner of Rocket Speed Equipment, a Waikato workshop well known for their period-styled builds, this Roadster was built to represent that tale of hot rodding legend, a barn find.
If you're into traditional cars, I guess it's every guy's dream to have that old car that's found in the barn or under the basement, you know, and they pull it out and it's an old hot rod built from the 50s and the interior's in pretty good nick and the paint's not too bad. Been going up and down, you know, to the States and looking around for sort of like the last 15 years and never really came across those cars, and then when this car come up, it seemed the perfect candidate to turn that car into. You know, it's got the original old paint, the car's telling a story, and then hopefully what I've done is just added a bit more to the story and its next progression as an automobile, you know. It's got the flathead, it's got the Scott Blower, it's got the Cadillac transmission, the Hallobrand quick change, you know, it's all those parts that when, you know, you're reading all those stories about all those cars, that's what they had, you know. Pretty cool that you're able to still build that car, those parts are available and you can still do it, you know.
A simpler car for simpler times.
I think the world's too fast. You know, you need to slow down and appreciate what's going on around you. You take an old car for a drive, you know you've driven an old car, you know what I mean? And I think that's just what some people need to do sometimes. I think you just get caught up And the whole rat race of going to work, coming home, you're doing this, you're doing that, everything's 100 mile an hour. And I think with the old cars, it takes you back and it just puts you in check a little bit. It's a bit of a privilege to be able to actually have the car and look after it. Hopefully, when one day whoever ends up with the car, hopefully they look after it and appreciate it as much as what I have and our family have. So, yeah, no, it's cool, man. It's a cool car. Good times.
Want to win big? Prizes don't get much bigger than this one. A massive Teng Tools 417-piece toolkit, 7-drawer cabinet and 6-drawer top box. A complete Maguire's car care pack and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. What do you need to do to be in to win? Simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Easy. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.